When I did my first classical piano competition, I could feel the stares all around. I clearly did not fit the mold, if you know what I'm saying. But I didn't really care because I wasn't there to prove myself to anybody there. I was there to prove something to myself, that I can do this, that I belong on the stage, and I belong to be in this competition because I have the gifts, I have the talents that God gave me to be here. I'd like to welcome you to Cliff's Corner. It's a new segment on my channel where I talk about the classical music world, I talk about rap music, I talk about different genres of music and different things that pertain to who Cliff is, and I give my own spin on these different type of topics. Today we're going to talk about my experiences as a Black classical pianist, the ups, the downs, the things that I had to be aware of, the things that I've witnessed and experienced. With that being said, let's jump right into it. To give you some context, I first started playing piano at 14 years old. I'm 37 years old. You do the math, that's 23 years. When I first started playing, I was teaching myself for 3 years. And in those 3 years, I witnessed so many different opinions, even from my own people. You know, what are you doing? You're Black, you should be playing jazz. You shouldn't be playing classical music. When I would do performances and I would go into the performance, automatically I'm getting the stares. I'm getting like, what are you doing here? You know, that type of energy, right? So it's easy for me, especially in those early days, it really rattled me at times and made me feel like, you know, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should listen to what other people are saying and play jazz and play gospel and play and do rap music. But I quickly realized that wasn't my calling. There are so many times, and even to this day, 23 years later, where I get profiled or I get looked at a certain type of way because it's like, what are you doing playing classical music? I'll tell you a time specifically. I remember I went to the Pierre Hotel in New York City on 60th Street, 5th Avenue, between those areas in there by Central Park. And I was playing cocktail music. I was there to play cocktail music for a high school scholarship function. So when I walked into the hotel, people were cordial and respectful. You know, I walked in and I was like, hey, can you direct me to where I have to go to play the piano? And when I finally meet up with the people, as I'm walking to the table, I get the looks like, what are you doing here? What is going on? What is this Black man doing here? Right? I quickly peeped it, you know, and I'm not gonna lie, at first it did make me feel angry, it made me feel annoyed because it's like, why are you judging me based off of what I look like? I have on my shirt and tie, I have on my suit and tie, I'm well groomed and all that good stuff. Why are you looking at me as if I shouldn't be here, you know? But you know, in those settings, one thing you always have to do is to be able to code switch. You peep game, you see it for what it is, and you don't react because that's what they want you to do. So I remember walking up to coach check, signing in like, hey, I'm here to play piano. Everybody's looking at me. One of the people, you know, Caucasian folks smiled and laughed, you know, quietly to themselves. I was like, oh, okay, I see what's happening. So it's always funny. Watch what happens. I start playing, right? I start playing lightly, then I start playing a little bit more heavier and really showing my expertise as a classical pianist. And by the end of that night, the same people that were up front that were profiling me and judging me, guess what they did? They came to me and was like, yo, you play so well. How long have you been playing? How did you get into classical music, right? And it's always funny and it's always hilarious to witness these different type of things. Because it's like, again, why are you so quick to judge somebody based off of how they look? Because of the skin and the color of their skin. We are intelligent. I'm an intelligent person. If you're Caucasian, you're an intelligent person. You don't deserve to be judged, so why judge me? I'm telling you about another time where this happened. I went to a performance somewhere in Queens at a hotel actually. And I finished playing, doing whatever I did. I played a transcription of Verdi's Rigoletto, La Donna Immobile. I'll never forget. I get off stage, I'm walking off stage, a Caucasian folk come to me. Yo, you play so well. It always starts off with, you play so well, right? So we're chopping it up, you know, how long you been playing, et cetera, yo, you play so well, who's your favorite composer? And then he asks me the most craziest question that he can ask. How come you don't play, do you play jazz? That was the question. I was like, no, I don't play jazz. You know, I'm more of a classical pianist. I can dabble a little bit in jazz, but I'm not a full-fledged jazz musician. I know some chords here and there. You should have seen his reaction. He gave me the look like, what the fuck are you, like, what? He gave me one of those looks, and it was just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then he had to catch himself. It was like, okay, you should really play jazz because, that's a good avenue for you to dive in, which is code for you're black, so you should not be playing my music. You should be sticking to what is traditionally your music. And, I just coughed it up and I just laughed it off like, it was nothing. But it just goes to show that, especially like during that time, there were so many people who wanted to keep me in this box of you're a black pianist, you should be doing this. If you believe in God, that's another topic I'm going to talk about too. If you believe in God, you should be playing church music and gospel music by giving your music back to God. And now that is a perfect segue, right? Because I'm explaining how that happened to me. I went to the doctor's appointment one time. I had my music out. I'm analyzing it, waiting for the doctor to come. A nurse comes by and she's like, oh, you play music, right? I'm like, yeah, I play music and whatever. And she was like, oh, what type of music is this? I play classical music. It's classical piano. I remember I was looking at the Beethoven sonata, analyzing it, right? So she's like, oh, it's good that you play classical music, but if you believe in God, you should be giving your gift back to God by playing gospel music and church music. And now, me naturally, I'm a non-combative person. I don't like doing all this extra stuff. But in my head, I'm like, who the hell does this lady think she is? Who the fuck do you think you are to tell me what I should and should not play, right? So this is a perfect segue. I've heard this statement, you need to play gospel music and church music because if you believe in God, that's worshiping God. If I did not believe in God, or if I don't honor God, or I don't honor a higher power, there's no way that me being from where I'm from, in the Bronx, New York, being from the hood, that classical music found me. In the hood, and people are underprivileged and things like that. I don't want to just label it as the hood, or specifically black people, but the people who are living in underprivileged areas do not have access to classical music. Maybe they'll have access to it if they watch the cartoon, but they won't know who it is and who's the composer by, and et cetera, et cetera. They're not going to be exposed to the same knowledge as somebody who's living in a more privileged area, right? So me playing classical music has everything to do with God. The way that classical music came into my life after taking a music class off of a whim, because I wanted to be in the same class as one of my close friends at that time. And then me being exposed to Mozart, Beethoven. I'm telling you, this is music I have never really keyed in on because I was never really exposed to it growing up, right? To hear these different samples of these different composers and then to be interested after the class was over and still want to play classical music, that's not off of my own volition. That's God. That's a higher power. So when people came to me and would say like, hey, you should be playing gospel music because you need to give your gift back to God. As I got older, I started responding by saying, you don't think that I'm giving my gift to God? You don't think I'm giving my gift to a higher power? Like, are you crazy? Like, how do you think somebody that looks like me plays classical music? I don't look like a classical pianist, and I love it. I dress how I dress. Hoodie, pants, sneakers, right? Sometimes Jordans, because I'm from the hood, but I'm not a hood dude. But that's how I like to dress, right? That's how I like to move. When you hear me speak on a regular, I could speak with manners and diction and all that good stuff, but I could also switch it up and speak street. I could speak hood. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, how else did classical music come into my life if it wasn't some type of higher power, some type of God, right? And I remember the last time I had this conversation was maybe like roughly like 10 years ago. I've been playing piano for 23 years. And the person said this to me, you need to do this because you want to honor God. And it's like, I am honoring God by every time that I sit and I turn and I pick up music and I analyze it, or I'm sitting down breaking it down, every time I'm getting frustrated, every time I'm ready to throw the music across the damn fucking room, or anytime I'm performing, that is me moving through God, because there is no way that I'm able to analyze this music when where I'm from. That has to be God. So when people say, like, hey, and if any of y'all are watching, when y'all watch this, if anybody ever comes to y'all and say, you need to be playing this, you need to be playing this to honor God, do not listen to it. Ignore it and see it as fuckery for what it is, because that's exactly what it is. You are using God's abilities. You're honoring God by playing the music. You're playing your classical music. You're learning this piece. You're learning that piece. You're performing here and there, because that's what God has written for you in your own book of life. It's the same thing with me. So I had to address that. That needed to be debunked. The whole entire, you need to be playing you need to be playing gospel music to give your gift back to God. Let's end that right there. Right? Another thing that is so funny, that still happens to this day. Whenever I take the train, I'll never forget the first time this happened, especially like when I get on around like Midtown, like 50th Street or 42nd Street, whatever the case may be. Whenever I get on those stops and I come on hoodie or dress however I'm dressed, automatically Caucasian folk, are wary. Oh my gosh, what is going on? This is a black guy. He has braids, box braids, hoodie, and et cetera, et cetera. The minute that I would sit down and bring out my music, because I carry music everywhere. We're classical pianists. We gotta carry the music everywhere to study it, right? The minute I break out the music, I'm analyzing. Oh my gosh, what is this piece? What instrument do you play? How do you play it? How did you? Now it's all the questions, right? But when I first came on the train, you're looking at me like, who is this black guy? Right? They're clutching their purse. Like, not all of us is like this. A lot of us have a lot of sense. A lot of us are really smart. A lot of us are gifted. A lot of us are talented. Not all of us is thinking about robbing y'all or hurting y'all or acting a certain type of way. Right? So it just brings to show you that I've experienced quite a few things as a classical pianist as far as the negative side, right? Stereotyped, profiled, laughed at, scoffed at, and then when I finally play, then it's like, oh snap, you're really talented, you're really gifted, right? And this didn't just happen with Caucasian folk. Most of it happened with Caucasian folk, but some of it happened with my own people. And the reason why that is because we're not exposed to certain things when we're younger, right? We're exposed to rap music and we see it as the only absolute music. Or we maybe be exposed to jazz because that is of our culture. But there are other genres of music that we really excel in, especially classical music, right? There's not a lot of us, it's underserved. There's not a lot of black classical pianists or musicians in the classical world, right? We're underrepresented, that's what's the word. But we are in it because that's what from here and here, that's what we love. That's our true passion, right? So even when black people be like, yo, what are you doing? Like, you're playing white music. Music has no color. If music was a human being, he or she wouldn't have no gender, they wouldn't have no identity, they would just be a being, whatever that looked like. And they would be accepted and they would love every single person on earth. You might say that music is a form of God, if you think about it, because it's enjoyed by so many people. It's meant to be enjoyed by so many people. So the whole entire, you're playing white people music, I can understand where it comes from, because most Caucasian folk or white folk, they play classical music, but take off the stereotype of it and enjoy it for what it is, as music. It's music classical music is music that hits here and here. Rap music, the same thing, here and here. Rock and roll, jazz, go along the lines, EDM, etc. It touches here and here. If you can relate to it here and here, me and you are brother and sister. Me and you, if we both like classical music, we like this, we like that. We are all connected. right? Through this source called music, a very spiritual source, right? So the whole entire topic of like black music and this music and that, it really shouldn't be like that, right? And now doubling back to things that I've experienced, I explained a lot of the negative stuff, some of the negative stuff actually. Not gonna go deep dive into that. As a black classical pianist, I want to talk about the positive things as well that I've experienced and I've witnessed. As a black classical pianist, I didn't realize how much impact I have on people who look like me and even people who don't look like me. People, Caucasian folks, Spanish, Asian, etc., etc. I don't realize how much influence I had on others until one day, besides me building my following online and different things like that, one day I was out and about, cruising the city, whatever the case may be, and then somebody came up to me and was like, "Oh, you're Clifford Jones. Are you Cliff Jones, the pianist?" I was like, "Yeah," and they were Caucasian, and they said to me, they was like, "Yo, I really love your style of playing. I really love that you play classical music. I also love how you teach classical music to my audience, to me, to your audience, etc., right?" And it was just like, "Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty dope." Fast forward maybe a couple months later, I run into somebody else from my Instagram that I didn't know personally, but they knew me. They saw me. And they was like, "Yo," and they were black. And they was like, "Yo, I show your videos of you teaching piano, of you playing piano to my nieces and nephews. They want to be able to play piano like you." And then subsequently times after that, when I would get certain messages from people online, "Yo, I really love your content. I can't," or there were times where they like, "You're a classical pianist, you're a black classical pianist. How did you get into it? Like, I want my niece or I want my son or I want my daughter to play piano," right? Because of you. You don't look like a classical pianist, right? You don't look like a regular Joe Schmo. You look like you're somebody from the hood, quote unquote. These were not the person's exact words, but you look like you're somebody from the hood that somebody like myself or somebody like my son or daughter can relate to, right? And that's one of the greatest things that has happened to me as a classical pianist. Put aside my following online, put aside the pieces that I've played and all the work that I put in to become a better pianist, or the things that I teach. Realizing the impact that you have just truly being yourself goes such a long way, and it outweighs all of the negative aspects of being a classical pianist, a black classical pianist that I had to experience. Right, and I wouldn't trade that for any type of day. The negative experience I had to witness, it helped me to build a thicker skin and helped me to hone in even more on my craft. And then now hearing the impact that I have on people, especially kids, like black and brown kids especially, and then also of course other races, it's like, yo, wait a minute. So that day back in 2004. When I decided to, no, not 2004, when was that? That was 24 years ago, 2001. That day when I decided to take that piano class and I learned all the basics. And after the class was over, I still decided to play piano. That day that I decided to dive in to playing piano, this is the end result that I'm able to have this much impact. I wouldn't trade this journey for anything in the world. Like, I'm really blessed and I'm really grateful. You know what I'm saying? So, the impact that I have on kids, the impact that I have on grown adults, people older than me, coming to me saying, "Yo, you're a really great teacher. I can't wait to study with you." Or people signing up for boot camps or whatever the case may be. It's all worth it as a black classical pianist, because I never would have thought that I would be on this level of being able to have this much influence on people. And that just goes to show, and I'm gonna end this here, that just goes to show that as a black classical pianist, right? If you're a black classical pianist or a person of color that loves classical music, don't listen to those around you or that person or this person that's trying to deter you from what your calling is. Because as long as you stay in it, you never know and realize the impact that you have on others. You don't realize that there are people looking up to you, that you inspire them to be able to be a classical pianist, a black classical pianist, right? Stay on your grind. Stay doing what you love, because this is your calling. Because if you decide to quit because you listen to other people's stereotypical bullshit, if you decide to quit because you don't truly believe in yourself, I promise you, you're gonna have so much regret. You will have so much regret down the line. That day when you're no longer able to play the piano the way that you used to, or the day that, let's pray that it's when you're 180 years old and your life is flashing before your eyes, and there's so much regret that you decided to, because you decided to listen to somebody else's opinion, that you didn't stick with your purpose. You're gonna have so much regret as your life clock is flashing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then you transition to another plane in life. You don't want to have those regrets. And you also never know who you're inspiring. So to any black classical pianist out there that has the second thoughts and second guessing of whether they should continue on with classical music, I am here to tell you, I've been playing 23 years. I'm 37 years old. I taught myself from 14 to 17 years old. And it took lessons from 17 to 25. And now the last 12 years, I'm teaching myself and teaching others. I'm telling you this, do not give up on the goal or the dream, because when you do that, you're gonna have so much regret. You never know who you're impacting, okay? So I'd like to say thank you so much for tuning into my video. Thank you so much for listening to me talk about myself as a black classical pianist and my experiences, the ups and the downs, and how I overcame. And this is Cliff's Corner. Stay tuned for the next episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I love y'all. Take care.